Go.
Okay, welcome. Okay, what I'm going to do is going to show how we replace the circuit board in a Chihuahua. And there's a couple of reasons you might want to do this. The most important one being that you might be one of these people that wants to upgrade from the old circuit to the new circuit. This is the version 2 circuit, which has better sonics, is all round better, more robust in its construction, and highly desirable, as you can see. So what I'm going to do here is I've actually got a unit here that has failed testing. So this is actually a V2 board that has actually failed testing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this one out and I'm going to replace it with this one. So it's exactly the same technique that you would use if you were going from the older V1 board to the V2 board. So that's what we're going to do. Here's my Chihuahua. These are the tools that I'm going to use. I've got my sockets here. This is an 11mm socket, chrome vanadium. This is a 5.5mm socket. This is the Allen key. I don't know what size it is, but every Chihuahua owner gets one of these inside their box with the Chihuahua. This is a lolly stick, an ice cream, a popsicle stick you may call it in the US. It's also called the knob height gauge. You'll see why later on. This will come in very useful. Okay, so I've got my Chihuahua. I've already taken off the base screws here. The first thing I want to do is I want to take off the knobs. Okay, so I'm just going to turn the knobs all the way to the full left position. I'm going to take my Allen key and I am going to just undo them and put them at the side here, one at a time. Like that. And then I'm going to take my 11mm socket and I'm just going to gently undo these. Careful you don't scratch the bezel here with them. Keep your socket tool vertical when you're doing it. Okay, so just undo those little nuts and just press the what do you call them? The pots down a little bit, and then that will come loose. So let's just lift that out. Okay, so you can see here that I've got the bezel, the control panel bezel. I've got 3 flat washers, and I've got these 3 nuts, which I'm just going to keep by the side. Okay, so this part is loose, which is the control board. Okay, next, I'm going to take my 11mm socket and I'm going to undo the input jacks and output jacks from the side, just like that. They come out pretty easily. Again, careful you don't scratch your Chihuahua when you're doing this. Oops, it ain't out. Okay, so note that you have 2 half-round washers. I'll just keep them on there like that. So now we are going to separate the 2 halves, and you'll see that the power jacks board now comes out freely. Okay, this is the power jacks board. Now, don't lose these. There are actually couple of little spacer washers on each side of the power jacks. There's actually 4 in total, 2 on each side. Let's just keep those, okay, over here. And inside the base of the Chihuahua, you'll find this little rubber pad. This is a spacer pad. We'll keep that here. Okay, so now you can see inside the Chihuahua, the power board, the jacks board is free. Let's just take out the battery. We're gonna keep that for the next. And you can see my control board is loose. Now it's just the main board here that I need to take out. So I've got my 5.5mm socket. I'm just going to undo these guys a bit. There's 4 of them. Okay, so a question that often comes up is how do I tell the difference between a V1 and a V2 board? Well, there's a bunch of ways, but the easiest way is to see this guy here. You see this guy here? I think it's a transistor. Todd, is that a transistor?
That is.
That's a transistor. The V1 board hasn't got this transistor sitting here. There's a bunch of other stuff, obviously, but this is a dead giveaway. So you can tell it's a V2 board. And your serial number is generally from about 850 upwards will be a V2 board, around there. But this is the way to tell is with this little transistor. So I'm just going to take out these screws that hold in the circuit board. Sorry, the nuts. There's 4 of those. We need those. Beavers, he said nuts. Okay. And you know, before we go any further, there's a very important thing we need to remember, which is to take a swig of beer. Which has to be the same colour as the circuit board. Now, to remove the circuit board, we need to depress the pedal as we do it. So we squeeze like that. You need quite strong hands, and then you just pull it out. Because there is this tooth, this kind of metal tooth that goes down into the body that regulates the amount of light that goes onto a light dependent resistor, and that will prevent the board coming out if you do not depress it. Okay? Okay, so that is kind of the first step, is removing the board. There it is. That's the weedy board that failed the testing. We don't want that guy. It goes into the sin bin, and it will be tested to see what's wrong with it, remediated, and it will be as new. Okay, so here we have the empty housing, 2 halves of it. So we're now going to put the new board back into the Chihuahua. So here's my lolly stick, my popsicle stick, very useful. Let's just go over the anatomy of the circuit board though first. Again, this is the controls board. These LEDs want to be vertical because they're going to protrude through the housing, so they want to be sticking through the holes. This is the main board. Okay, this is the back side of it, and the top. This is the plutonium inductor that is designed in-house by us, which we think sounds better than any other inductor that's out there in the market. This black guy here in the middle is an optical interrupter, which is a switch that turns the circuit on and off when the tooth goes in. And this will come in, just bear that in mind, I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. And this is the jacks board on the bottom. These are Neutrik jacks, obviously where the signal goes in and out, and that's the power jack. Okay, so the first part that we need to do is to get the controls board in. So I take my lolly stick. You can see here that the inside of the upper housing has got this felt sheet. Okay, this is here firstly to stop the the little legs of the components touching the body, which could cause a short. They probably won't because there's a powder coat, but even so we have it there for safety. And secondly, it's to block some of the light that comes from these LEDs from coming into the circuit and polluting the circuit. And the way the circuit works, you've got a light dependent resistor here, and you've got an LED on this side, and the amount of light that comes from here onto here changes the amount of wire. So obviously we don't need light pollution. So that's what this is for. So, but to get it under the controls board, we need to flatten it down. So we use our lolly stick like this. Okay, keep it flat against the body like that. Okay, then I've got my controls board, insert through, make sure that the LEDs go through the holes like that. Okay, and then press it in so that the pots protrude as much as possible. And we take the bezel goes on there, and then we take our washers, 3 washers. Oops, it's so flat I can't pick it up because I haven't got any nails. And then 3 nuts. And you stick them on over the pot shafts and press down, and then just locate them, do them up hand tight like that. Then we get our 11mm socket, and oops, that one is not on, hasn't bitten in. Get it to bite, and then just tighten it up. Same with the other guys. Okay, so now our control board is securely in place inside. Okay.
Yeah, one thing.
What's that?
You don't want to tighten them too tight.
Absolutely, you don't want to tighten them too tight, they could break, but you know, just hand tight, don't overdo it. Okay, so next I want to get the main board in. Now remember, we've got this tooth guy in the middle that's going to stop it going in. So again, we need to depress the treadle, the pedal, you want to call it that, and then just kind of locate the board over the screws. Here we go, it just slides in nicely. It has been engineered as such, with extremely accurate measuring. Okay, and then let's get the screws on. Got that. Sorry, these are the nuts, not the screws. Oops. It's going to be a bit fiddly, especially if you've got fat, clumsy fingers like I have from drinking too much beer. Gonna need another one.
All right.
That's a hint.
Okay, I'll be back.
Go to the plutonium fridge. So meanwhile, filling up the screws, nice and tight, hand tight. Waiting for my biatch to come back with my beer. My beer hatch. Throw that one away. Excellent. We have another one. We'll open it away from the circuit. We don't want it to spray all over it. And we're all set for the next part. Okay. So my main circuit board is nicely in there. You can see it's done up nice. Now back to this guy here, the optical interrupter. Now the tooth, as you can see, nestles in between these kind of two nodes of the optical interrupter. You can see it's got an E and a plus and a D and a plus. It doesn't really matter, but you can see that there's a little slot in the middle of the optical interrupter, and the tip of this tooth must cover that slot, because that is the kind of light beam that is broken, or I guess unbroken when you depress the pedal. You see, like this, when I press the pedal, the tooth moves, and when it moves out of that gap, it's turning the circuit on. So that has to be just adjusted a bit. Just use your thumbnails and just wiggle it a bit, so that you can see here now that the slot is obscured by the tooth. Now if you don't do this, when you plug the Chihuahua on, the wah circuit will always be on. This red LED will always be on. So if you notice that, it means that the optical interrupter is not aligned correctly. So you need to go in and jiggle it a bit so that it's covered. Okay, so we've done this part, the top part. Now we want to get the base in. So we've got this this rubber pad. This is stopping the bottom of the control pad from touching the bottom of the unit, and also it is acting as a bit of a spacer. So what I'm going to do now, let's see if I can remember the order of this, is I've got my little spacer washers. These go over the end of the Neutrik jacks like that, just to provide a bit of padding. Now I've got these red and black wires here. Now I want to bend them underneath the circuit board, and you can see that there's a channel between the side of the pad, the edge of the pad, and the edge of the housing. Those wires want to sit in that channel. Okay, like this. See? If they don't, the jacks won't line up with the holes. Alright? You can see they line up nicely because my red and black wires have gone in that little gap, that little space there. I'll then get my jacks, screw them in, just do them up hand tight, and then I get my 11mm socket, just do them up, alternate the sides. If you do one up too tight on one side, the power jack will go out of alignment, so just do it like that. Okay, take my battery in there like this, take the upper housing, get your battery in, pull the wire in behind, voila, okay, it's in there. So now all I need to do is get my knobs back on. I've got my knob height gauge, the thickness of a popsicle stick. I stick it on top of the little washer there, take my knob, and then I just get it on there. So you can see that these are the half round shafts. The knob should locate itself in the right place, but I normally turn them to the full left position for this particular task. And there we go. Now you may want to kind of visually line these up. Sometimes they don't go on 100% straight, and then just give them a little visual line up. We're done. Okay, that is how we replace the circuit board on a Chihuahua.